And welcome to our Bible study again. We've been looking in the book of Ecclesiastes, and what we saw in chapter 2 is that Solomon came to the conclusion that it was good for man to enjoy the things that God had given him, even the opportunity for us to work and to provide for ourselves. And now we move into chapter 3, and Solomon is still searching for the true meaning to life, and he sees that good times and bad times come to all, and that this repeats itself with each generation. He says in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 15, that which has already been, and what is to be has already been, and God requires an account of what is past. What Solomon sees here is that there are things in this life that are indeed beyond our control, that no matter how rich or powerful one may be, one cannot prevent sorrow, one cannot prevent sickness, one cannot prevent death. And so Solomon sees that the only way that one can find true comfort and happiness will come by placing his trust in God, and that man should make the best of his life while seizing the opportunities that God offers to us. If we look here in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, I want to read the first 8 verses to you. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And all these things that I just read are things that we'll come to know in this life if we indeed live long enough. And so we realize that wealth, that wisdom, and success are not really in our hands. I want you to notice what James says about that over in the New Testament in James 4 verses 13 through 16. He says, come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. But now you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. There's a time for different things in life, a time to be born and a time to die. We have no control over when we'll be born. We really don't have any control over when we die, but we know that we will. There's a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. The farmer plants in the spring, he harvests in the fall. Generally, that's what we accept. There's a time to kill, that is, there is a time that when criminals execute crimes heinous enough that they're worthy of the death penalty. But then there's also a time for healing. There's a time to break down. There's a time when buildings have become dilapidated. It's time to tear them down to replace them with new ones. There's a time to gather away stones, that is, a time to clear a field for building, and then there's a time to gather the stones together for the building. And there's a time to embrace and a time not to embrace. In other words, there are times in our lives that display all of our emotions. And sometimes things are exact opposites of each other, but we experience them all as we go through this life. There are things that we are to love, things that we are to hate. The things that are to be loved, we can read in John 13, verses 34 and 35. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I've loved you, that you also love one another. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. One of the things that we're to hate is sin. Not the sinner, but the sin itself. And so we realize that man's labors, man cannot control all the time, all the circumstances that come about it. But we're to be thankful to God for the opportunities. And we're to recognize and accept circumstances that are beyond our control. And what we learn in life is this, that we can choose our own conduct, we can form our own character, and we can decide to obey God or not. Let us realize we may not have control of everything, but God does. and He is in control. Let us put our trust and faith in Him. I thank you for watching today, and I invite you to worship with us at the Bearden Church of Christ. We meet at 745 Cedar Street in Bearden. If you're coming from out of town, that's Arkansas State Highway 203. We meet on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. for Bible study, at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. for our worship services, and we meet on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock for midweek Bible study. We encourage and invite you to come be a part of us. We want to see you. Thank you for listening today. Have a great weekend, everybody. Goodbye, and God bless.